So as I'm sure many of you know, there was an incident that took place in June of 2011 where I got physical with my mother. I was obviously delusional. I was lost in psychosis. I thought my mother and grandfather were running a pedophile ring. My grandfather had since passed away, but I had a picture frame of my grandfather that I wanted to scan at the library, and I had it in my room. And my mother came upstairs to confront me about the picture frame of my grandfather, who I thought was behind a pedophile ring. And, you know, upstairs, I tackled my mother. Now, she claims she broke her finger or her hand, I'm not sure exactly what. You know, I mean, in her text message, she claims I beat her to a pulp, I punched her in the head. That's not so. I tackled her, and it wasn't like a Bill Goldberg spear. It wasn't like a Braun Breaker spear. You know, I tackled her, and it was bad. Take accountability. It was really bad, and I've apologized several times throughout the years. You know, I got physical with my mother. I could have wound up in jail. But, you know, in her text message, she was being very dramatic. She also said, you know, she was like, you know, she did 20 tours of Iraq duty. So in her text message, she was very dramatic, but also it was really bad. And, you know, my brother came out of his room, and I was in the process of leaving as it was. And my brother's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you? Get out of here!" So I left, and I took a long walk. I went to the library, and I sent some emails saying how my mother, you know, was the perpetrator, and you know, I thought there was going to be a court case and I was going to put my mother in jail for pedophilia and sexual abuse, but that was just completely delusional. And then I left the library, I guess before the police found me, and I took a walk up Hempstead Turnpike in Levittown up to Bethpage. And I stumbled upon a payphone. I picked up the payphone, a random payphone in Bethpage, and I called my father because I figured calling my mother or stepfather would be a bad idea. And thankfully my father got me, and he took me to the psychiatric hospital, and thankfully my mother didn't press charges, and the charges were dropped, and I have no criminal record, and the charges are sealed. But yeah, like I said, that was really bad. But, you know, keep in mind, that's 13 years ago. Keep in mind that was one isolated incident of me getting physical. And I feel like you know, my mother claims, "Oh, you got physical with me." And I know she says on Thanksgiving, you know, I smashed the plate this past Thanksgiving, and she claims glass got in her eye. And I guess if it did, but that wasn't me getting physical with her. And I know they say you punch holes in the walls, but realistically, I know if you get physical with somebody, if you lay your hands on somebody, I've learned, even if you think they're monsters, you're going to be the one going to jail. You're going to be the one going to the psychiatric hospital. So don't lay your hands on somebody, because if you do, there's going to be bad consequences for you, and that's prison or the hospital. And neither place is good. And obviously, you know, my mother was an innocent victim who I got physical with, and I should feel guilt, empathy, and I've apologized to her countless times throughout the years. I've said I'm sorry. You know, obviously, in recent years, you know, and this is like smashing the plate on Thanksgiving, for example. You know, I learned, you know, it's kind of like my song Molly. You know, when somebody is yelling at you and, you know, it's high emotion and you feel your toggle switch toggling on, and you feel like you're going to make a decision like punching the wall, for example, or smashing a plate, which, you know, I have only gotten physical with my mother and any family member once, and it's never going to happen again. But let's say, hypothetically speaking, you punch a hole in the wall. I learned you're going to get taken to the hospital, and you don't want to go to the hospital, so you got to control your emotions. So when you feel your emotions rising and bubbling up, go for a walk. Leave the house for like an hour or two. And you can come back and you'll be calmer, your mother will be calmer, and things will be better. I know somebody made a joke, oh, you know, if your brother didn't leave the room and come out, maybe it would have ended like, Chris Benoit, you would have given your mother the Chris Benoit diving head, but I don't think that would have happened in June of 2011. I was in the process of leaving as it was. And, it was bad. Don't get me wrong, it was bad. But also, I think my mother was being dramatic in her description of it. But it would take accountability for how bad it was. And maybe I need some form of anger management. I know people push for mood stabilizing medications, and they're like, oh, you need mood stabilizing medications and more antipsychotics and tons of medication. Okay. Yeah, but bear in mind, I haven't laid my hands on anybody, especially my family, before June 2011, and I haven't done it since. So the year is now, it's now, March 2025, and, I feel like that they should just kind of trust I'm reformed.